Most people think intimacy starts with a physical move, a touch, a kiss, a glance. But that's not how it works, especially with men who are emotionally guarded or used to playing it cool. If you want to truly invite a man into intimacy, happy version of me, you have to start way before the moment you're actually in the bedroom. You have to understand his emotional blueprint. Every man has one, a hidden code for how he connects, how he lets his guard down, and how he responds to emotional safety. Happy version of me. Some men grew up in environments where being emotionally open was seen as weakness. Others have been burned by women who wanted something from them, but didn't see them for who they really were. So what happens? They build walls, and those walls don't come down because someone simply asks for more intimacy. They come down when a man feels safe enough to let someone in. So before you think about how to ask him for more intimacy, take a moment to understand what makes him feel emotionally safe. This doesn't mean psychoanalyzing him or trying to fix him. Version of me. It means a noticing. How does he respond when you give him a compliment? Does he deflect or does he light up? Whoppy version of me. What happens when you talk about your own feelings? Does he lean in or does he shut down? Happy version of me. These little moments tell you everything about what he's learned to protect, what he fears, what he's craving, even if he doesn't say it out loud. Now, here's the trick. When you understand his emotional blueprint, you can start speaking to that part of him directly. Maybe he's someone who has always felt like he needs to perform to be loved, to be impressive, successful, in control. So instead of saying, I want us to be more physical, you might start with, I feel so connected to you when we slow down and just be close. That's what I crave. That hits different. Happy version of me. That's not a demand. That's an emotional invitation. That's you saying, I see you. I value you. Happy version of me. I want to share something deeper with you. And here's where vulnerability comes into play. Nappy version of me. When you go first, when you show just a little bit of your truth, it invites him to do the same. Most men don't get that from women. They get surface level conversations, flirty distractions, or pressure to perform. But a woman who meets him on an emotional level, that's rare. That's magnetic. The other thing you want to do here is take your time. This isn't about rushing him to open up or trying to extract some moment of affection from him just because you're ready. It's about creating space, emotional space, physical space, when he starts to feel like he can actually breathe around you, not perform, not impress, not chase, he relaxes. And when he relaxes, version of me, he lets you in. So many women ask, how do I get him to want more closeness? But the better question is, what makes him feel close in the first place? Because that's the space where your ask will actually land. Version of me. That's where his walls come down. And when he's in that space, when he feels understood and wanted, not for what he does, but for who he is, you won't need to beg for intimacy. You'll just naturally invite it. Because men don't open up for someone who demands it. They open up for someone who gets them. Happy version of me. And if you can understand his emotional blueprint, not perfectly, not all at once, but just enough, then you're already speaking a language that makes him want to come closer, not out of pressure, out of choice. Happy version of me. So let's say you've started to understand how he's wired emotionally. You're noticing the ways he responds to closeness. Version of me, what makes him open up and what makes him shut down. Now comes the next step. And this is where most people trip up. It's not about pushing, convincing, or trying to get intimacy from him. It's about leading with vulnerability, not pressure. Version of me. And I know vulnerability can feel scary, especially if you've been in situations before where you asked for more affection, more presence, more connection, and felt like you were either too much or not enough. But here's the shifting of me. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's strength because it gives the other person something real to respond to. It says, I trust you enough to show up without armor. And trust me, men pick up on that version of me. They feel when you're being real versus when you're performing for a reaction. See, when you pressure someone, even subtly, it creates resistance. You might say something like, "You never initiate anything," or "Why don't you ever just come closer?" And sure, version of me, you're being honesty, but it's honesty that comes with frustration, with blamed. And when someone feels blamed, version of me, their instinct is to defend or withdraw, not to move toward you. That's the opposite of intimacy. But imagine instead you say something softer, like, "I love when you come close to me without me asking," version of me. It makes me feel so connected to you. Now you're not pressuring, you're inviting, you're creating a window for him to walk through, not a wall for him to scale. And here's the psychological tricking. When a man above feels like closeness is something he's choosing because it feels good to him, not because he's being pushed into it, he's way more likely to give you what you want, version of me, and to do it willingly. This is what I mean by leading with vulnerability. It's not about being passive or hiding what you want, version of me. It's about revealing it in a way that brings him into your emotional world rather than making him feel like he's failing in yours. That's a skill, one that makes you unbelievably attractive. Because suddenly, version of me, you're not just another person asking for more from him. You're someone showing him how good it can feel to give more. And look, sometimes you might be tempted to protect yourself, to pull back, go cold, or pretend you don't care. Happy version of me, just so you don't feel like you're putting yourself out there too much. But that kind of emotional self-protection creates distance. And that distance becomes the exact thing you're trying to fix. If you want more closeness, more physical or emotional intimacy, you have to be willing to go first without needing immediate results. Vulnerability isn't a transaction, it's an offering. The most powerful requests don't come with pressure. They come with presence, with honesty, with warmth. That's what gets through to him. And when you speak from that place, version of me, you're not just asking for physical touch. You're creating a moment of emotional connection that naturally leads to it. That's how intimacy grows. Not from force, but from feeling. So if you're going to ask for more closeness, do it in a way that leaves space for him to choose it. Not because he has to, but because something in your energy, your words, yoppy version of your openness makes him want to. That's the trick most people miss. You don't get intimacy by needing it. You get it by being someone it's safe to be close to. Version of me. And when you do that, when you lead with softness instead of pressure, you're not chasing closeness. You're inspiring it. Once you've created emotional safety and shown vulnerability, the next moment that matters is how you ask. And this is where everything can shift, not because of what you're saying, but how you say it. There's a huge difference between asking for intimacy in a way that sounds like a demand, asking in a way that feels like an invitation. That difference is everything. Men, like all people, are more likely to step into connection when they feel like it's their choice. When you use language that gives them freedom instead of control, it softens their defenses. The moment they feel boxed in, backed into a corner, or told what they're not doing, their instinct is to pull away. Not because they don't care, but because it no longer feels like a shared experience. It feels like pressure. That's why invitation language is so powerful. Instead of saying, "Why don't you ever initiate intimacy?" which comes across as an accusation, try something more open, more emotionally charged, like, "I love the way I feel when you pull me close. It's one of those things that makes me melt a little." That line doesn't criticize, it doesn't control. It doesn't even directly ask for anything, but it creates an emotional doorway he can walk through. It shows him how his intimacy affects you in a positive way, which makes him more likely to want to do it again. Because deep down, A man wants to feel that he's winning with you, that what he's doing lands, that it's meaningful, that it makes you feel something. The goal isn't to manipulate or sugarcoat what you want. It's to invite him to meet you at a level where he feels like a participant, not a performer. Because here's what happens when you use demand language. We need to talk about how distant you've been lately. Or, if things don't change between us, I don't know where we're going. Those might feel honest in the moment, but they're loaded. They create anxiety instead of connection. And anxiety is not the space where intimacy grows. It's the space where people armor up. So instead, lean into softer, more open language, even when the conversation is serious. You might say, "Lately I've missed feeling close to you, and I want to find a way back to that with you." That still communicates your need, but it's not a test. It's not a trap. It's an invitation to reconnect. One of the most underrated tools in communication is curiosity. When you're not getting the intimacy you want, ask him about his experience, not in a loaded way, but with genuine interest. What makes you feel close to me? Or when do you feel most connected in a relationship? These questions let him think about his own emotional needs. Opens the door for him to engage, not just react. Remember, intimacy isn't something you drag someone into. It's something you invite them into. When your energy shifts from "I need this from you" to "I want to share this with you," everything becomes lighter. That's what makes a man want to step in, not because he has to, but because he feels called in by the warmth of your presence, the way you speak, the way you see him. Ultimately, the words you use create the emotional environment around your request. When that environment feels safe, calm, free, instead of heavy and demanding, you'll be amazed at how much more willing he becomes to give you what you're asking for. Not because he's being pressured, but because now he wants to. Even when you've created emotional safety, shown your vulnerability, asked in a way that invites rather than pressures, there's still one element that often gets overlooked, and that's timing. You could say the right thing in the right way with the most open-hearted energy, but if the timing is off, it won't land. Intimacy, especially emotional or physical, needs the right moment. And that moment is rarely when you're both distracted, stressed, or emotionally disconnected. People often try to have these deep conversations about closeness in the middle of conflict, or at the end of a long, exhausting day, or when one person clearly isn't emotionally present. Then they wonder why they get a flat or defensive response. The truth is, when someone doesn't feel emotionally in sync with you, they're not going to receive what you're asking for in the way you hoped. That's not rejection. It's just misalignment. Instead of rushing in and trying to create connection on demand, it's smarter to look for the natural emotional peaks in your dynamic. These are the moments when he's already open, already leaning in, already feeling close to you. Maybe it's after you've both laughed together. Maybe it's when you've had a great day and you're cuddled up in a quiet moment. Maybe it's when he's shared something real and you've responded with empathy instead of analysis. These emotional peaks are gold. That's the moment to gently ask for more intimacy, not out of need, but from a place of wanting to deepen what's already there. Because now you're building on connection instead of trying to fix a lack of it. This is something most people overlook. They wait until they feel the absence of intimacy to bring it up. But if you only ever ask for closeness when it's missing, it starts to sound like a complaint. Instead, try asking when you're already feeling connected. That changes the whole energy. Saying something like, "I love moments like this with you, and I want more of them," while you're already close, makes it feel like a shared desire, not a criticism. Also, read the emotional room. If he's deep in work mode, or just got off a frustrating call, or is clearly not present, don't pick that moment to try and connect. Not because your needs don't matter, but because your needs deserve to be heard in a moment where they can actually be received. That's the difference between a conversation that brings you closer and one that just leaves you both frustrated. When the timing is right, you'll notice it. He'll be more relaxed, more engaged, more willing to play, tease, touch, share. That's your window. You don't need to make a grand speech. Just lean into that moment and say what's true. Something small, something real. Because in the right moment, even a soft ask lands like a deep emotional truth. The key is patience. Don't rush closeness. Don't try to create it on your schedule. Instead, become sensitive to those little waves of connection that naturally rise between you. And when one of those waves comes, ride it. That's when your words won't feel like a request. They'll feel like an extension of the intimacy you already have. That's what makes a man want to come closer. He doesn't feel pulled or pushed. He feels aligned with you. He feels like you get him. And when your timing is in tune with his emotional state, even a small gesture becomes a powerful invitation. Version of me, when the emotional groundwork has been laid, when he feels safe, when you've shown your vulnerability, and when you've chosen your moment wisely, how you begin the conversation still makes all the difference. And one of the most powerful ways to do it is by starting with a affirmation. You affirm the connection that already exists before you ask to deepen it. Why? Because people, especially men, are more likely to move toward connection when they feel seen, appreciated, and successful in the relationship. Think about each you, most be version of. Most people respond better to encouragement than criticism. Be version of me. When a man feels like he's already you winning with you, when he feels like he's doing something right, he's far more likely to open up, give more, and lean in closer. But if your approach begins with what's missing, he starts to feel like he's already failing. Happy version of me. And when a man feels like he's not enough, or like he can't get it right, he doesn't try harder. He pulls back. So instead of jumping straight into what you want more of, begin by affirming what already feels good. Happy version of me. You might say something as simple as, I love how safe I feel around you. Or, when you kiss me out of nowhere, it just lights me up. These aren't empty compliments. They're emotional cues. They let him know what works, what connects. Version of me, and what draws you in. That creates confidence for him to do more of it. Then from that place of warmth, you can ask for more, but not from a space of needness, from a space of you intention. For example, I'd love for us to create even more of those moments. Happy version of me. That kind of connection means a lot to me. Now, it's not about what's missing. It's about what you want to build together. Your version of me, you're not pointing out a gap, you're pointing toward possibility. That small shift changes everything. Because the truth is, happy version of me. Most men want to please their partner. They want to feel like they're doing a good job. Happy version of me. But when they only ever hear what they're not doing, how they don't show affection enough, or initiate enough, or express themselves enough, it can start to feel like they're constantly being measured and falling short. That kills intimacy faster than anything. Affirmation softens the path, and it reminds him that you're not fighting against him. You're rooting R for the relationship. Your version me, you're showing him that you see the effort, the love, the little things he's already giving. That builds trust. That lowers his guard. Happy version of me. And it makes him much more open to hearing what else you'd like, because now it doesn't feel like criticism. It feels like connection. Even when you have something a little more serious to bring up, lead with the energy of appreciation. Let your tone match your intention. If your intention is closeness, don't use the language of distance. Say something like, there's so much I love about us. Happy version of me, and I want to be even more connected with you. That's a doorway. That's how you frame and ask in a way that pulls someone in instead of pushing them away. Because at the end of the day, in version of me, intimacy isn't just about what you ask for. It's about the emotional or tone of how you ask. When you start with what you love, he listens differently. His heart softens, his guard drops. And now, instead of hearing a list of needs, version of he hears an opportunity to go deeper with you, not out of guilt, pressure, but out of genuine desire to meet you in that space, version of me. And that's where the magic lies, not in the perfect words, but in the intention behind them. When you affirm, then ask, you're not demanding intimacy. You're making it irresistible. At the heart of all of this, emotional safety, vulnerability, inversion invitations instead of pressure, perfect timing and affirmation. There's one final piece that holds it all together, your ability to stay you detached from the outcome. Because the moment you tie your worth to how he responds, you lose your power. Ironically, that's often what makes the request feel heavier, less attractive, and more loaded. See, version of me, real confidence in intimacy doesn't come from always getting a high yes. It comes from knowing that you're okay no matter what the answer is. Your P version me. You're not asking because you're desperate or trying to fill a void. You're asking because you're already whole, already enough, and you're inviting someone to meet you there. That shift in energy is subtle but huge. Version of me. When you don't need him to respond a certain way in order for you to feel good about yourself, it creates freedom. It takes the pressure off him and it takes the pressure off you. This doesn't mean you become emotionally cold or indifferent. It means you ask from a grounded place, not an anxious one. You speak your truth and you let go. Happy version of me. And here's the psychological trick. When a man feels that you're asking from self-respect, not self-doubt, it changes how he hears you. He doesn't feel manipulated, doesn't feel tested. He feels invited. And invitations, as we've said, are far more powerful than demands. When you can ask for intimacy with full presence and zero emotional grip on the outcome, you become magnetic. Why? Because so few people do that. Most people attach everything to the response. If he says, yes, I'm wanted. If he says, no, version of me, I'm rejected. But that mindset makes the other person responsible for your emotional state. And that's a weight nobody wants to carry in a relationship. The trusion of me. The truth is, when you're okay either way, you're not risking rejection, you're showing strength. Because the message behind your words becomes, this is what I desire, and I'm sharing it with you because I care about this connection. Version of me. But if it's not something you're ready for, I'll still be okay. That's not arrogance. That's emotional maturity. And here's what often happens. The moment you let go of needing a particular response, you open space for the right whole response to emerge. Your happy version of me. You're not blocking connection with expectation or tension. You're leaving room for honest desire to show up. Sometimes he will meet you there. Sometimes he won't. But either way, a version of me, you remain grounded in your own value, and that's what keeps your self-worth intact regardless of what he chooses. This is why all the earlier steps matter. When you've built emotional trust, shown vulnerability, communicated with clarity, chosen the right moment, and led with affirmation, and you're unattached to the outcome. What you're doing is offering intimacy instead of chasing it. Dippy version of me. You're giving without grasping. And that kind of energy is rare. It's the energy of someone who knows they're enough already with or without someone else's validation. And if he doesn't respond the way you hoped, that doesn't mean you failed. It just gives you clarity. Version of me. Because someone who can't meet you in your desire for deeper connection might not be capable of giving you the relationship you truly deserve. Knowing that sooner rather than later is a gift, not a loss. So when you ask boldly. Ask with love. Ask with softness. But most importantly, ask from a place of emotional freedom. Because the powerful ask is the one that says, this is what I want, but I don't need your yes to know I'm worthy of love. That's not just how you create intimacy. That's how you inspire it.